to the search for justice, almost 15 years since the 9/11 attacks. Almost 3,000 people died that day. Two of the hijacked jets, of course, took off from Logan. Legislation that would allow the victims' families to sue Saudi Arabia for complicity in the attacks is now being considered on Capitol Hill. Although Saudi Arabia was cleared of any role in the 9/11 congressional report, that doesn't satisfy critics. 28 pages of that document have never been released publicly. The timing couldn't be worse for Barack Obama. He's been in Saudi Arabia meeting with Mideast leaders about the war on terrorism. He's also said he'll veto the bill, which has bipartisan support if it gets to his desk. The victims' families are not happy.
To watch the president sitting with the people of Saudi Arabia that may have funded the attacks that killed my husband and 3,000 others is very hard to watch.
Joining me now is the lead Democrat on the National Security Subcommittee, Congressman Stephen Lynch, who recently returned from a trip to the Middle East. Congressman, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Jim.
You support this bill, don't you?
Oh, yes, yeah.
President says he'd veto it. He says it subjects America and its people to retaliatory action from other countries for drone attacks or things like that. Where's he wrong?
Well, I agree that sovereign immunity is very important. However, there should be an exception for terrorism, and that's what we're talking about here. As you say, we lost almost 3,000 innocent Americans that day, and we should get to the bottom of this case. And if they get their day in court, and that's all we're asking, we're not asking for a predetermined result here. If they get their day in court, they should be able to recover against those who will be held accountable.
What if it turns out another country passes a law that says we define terrorism as a drone attack on our, even if it's only collateral damage, citizens are killed. That's how we define it. You lose your sovereign immunity in our courts, United States.
They can do that now. They can do that now. A lot of the countries that we operated in are Islamic republics that are governed by the Quran. So there are all kinds of situations in the Middle East where they could do that if they chose to.
Saudis are pretty exercised about this. One of the things they said they'd do if this were to become law is liquidate somewhere in the neighborhood of $750 billion assets they have in the United States. What's the consequence of that, and is it something you and we should worry about?
I think we should call their bluff. First of all, about $500 billion in securities changes hands every day, just normally. So this would be a relatively small, not insignificant, but a small, portion of that securities flow on any given day. I also think that Saudi Arabia, they've got the assets also that they're talking about selling is the Port Arthur oil refinery, all these distributorships that allow them to sell petrol in the United States. It would be very difficult for them to dump. And look at it this way: if we buckle under that pressure, what about China that has $1.2 trillion in U.S. securities in their portfolio? Are they going to say, get out of the South China Sea, or we're going to sell $1.2 trillion? You can't respond to that.
China could sell the United States to another country based upon how much they own.
No, they have about 8% of our foreign.
What are the odds of this? I mean, ultimately, the president's going to veto it. I'm assuming, even with bipartisan support, there's not enough support to override a presidential veto. But are there enough votes for it to get to his desk?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Well,
yeah.
You're shaking your head, meaning you might have 2/3 in each house ultimately on this to override the president's veto?
I think so. People feel that strongly about it.
So the thing that this is in part a function of is something you've been fighting for years. The two intelligence committees in the Congress did a report on 9/11. I think it was 2002, was it not?
Right.
That thing
2002 and 3, yeah.
And 28 pages are missing. The president opposes the release of these 28 pages. You've read them, but I know you can't describe in detail what's in there, but you can give us a gist of what is in there and why you think the public has a right to see it.
Sure. It describes the months and years before the terrorist attacks. Remember, 14 out of 22 of the hijackers were Saudi. They came to this country. Many of them did not know the language. Many of them did not have any other knowledge of our society, yet they came here. They were educated, funded, learned how to fly commercial jetliners, and then perpetrated these attacks over a series of months. And, they had support here. And so...
What does here mean?
In the United States. So the 28 pages describes who helped them in names, dates, locations, transactions, and that should come out.
Does it also make a connection to the Saudi royal family? Because the suggestions are that that connection is made there, that they help fund either some of the terrorists directly, Al-Qaeda directly.
Yeah, that would be too specific a question.
Well,
to
Senator
ask me.
Graham, who's the Senate chair of the
Well,
Intelligence
he can say that.
Committee,
He doesn't have to worry about losing his top security clearance.
Because he's
but
no
I am.
longer. I see.
Right. So I can't say that.
So when he says there are
But he
links
said
between
that.
at least two of the hijackers in the Saudi embassy in D.C., you can't confirm that he's.
I think I would overstep the,
So if you've talked about this with us for years here, if this implicates the Saudis in ways that it's pretty clear it does from what you're able to say and what former Senator Graham say, why does the Saudi why does the government there support its release? It would seem to me that's totally counterintuitive. If it implicates them, they say release it. It's fine with us.
They say that, but I don't believe that they're.
Because they think the president's never going to allow it. Is that it?
I think behind the scenes they're saying don't ever allow that to become public and keep it classified.
So I have to say, as a citizen, I'm a total sunshine kind of guy, and so based on what you say and a lot of other responsible people, I want to see this too. This passes, the end of sovereign immunity for terrorist support of terrorist acts passes. The president's there trying to get support of the Saudi government, the royal family, to fight ISIS. You're the Saudi royal family, and this stuff is moving through Congress. Do you offer support to the United States?
What kind of relationship do you have with a country when the basis of it is that you can't tell the truth to your own people and that you can't hold the people who killed thousands of Americans on American soil, you can't hold them accountable? That's just, there's no basis there for any type of relationship. That's not one that's built on trust. It's built on concealment of the truth.
So even if it imploded, you wouldn't feel like there was a great loss?
There's nothing there.
Can we spend the last 30 seconds about something where I hope there is no controversy? You are responsible, essentially, with your colleagues, but you're the leader. The Glenn Doherty Overseas Security Personnel Fairness Act, obviously Glenn Doherty, a Massachusetts resident, killed in Benghazi. Tell us what it does, Congressman.
Okay, it allows, for those who don't know, it allows the Doherty family to receive the death benefits. Their son was a CIA contractor. He had an insurance policy that he paid $7,000 in premiums for. But because the Defense Base Act, the 1941 Act, did not allow non-spouses and non-children to receive that benefit, the family was denied that benefit for the last 3.5 years. So this week, the CIA finally, with the pressure of myself and Senator Markey and Senator Warren and Jason Chaffetz, Republican and Democrat, they agreed to change the application of the law based on statutory changes that we made, and it will cover not only the Doherty family, but any other family. There are dozens of families who lost loved ones, at the Beirut barracks bombing, the embassy bombings in Africa, and so they would all be able to recover.
Congratulations on that. I hope the sun does shine on those 28 pages. Congressman, thanks so much for being here.